Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan of Tam Cowan, and Darren Jackson with me here on this Tuesday. You can follow us on our Facebook page. Just hit the follow button. You can share the stream, and if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe as well. We'd love to have you on board joining the football family. Great to have you guys with us. Just a little bit of, obviously, house rules, to be honest with you. If at the end of the season, guys, Roughie wins the head-to-head, he doesn't want to pick up the trophy or indeed in any way celebrate with any of us. If there's a staff party, Tam, I just want to let you know that he doesn't want to be involved in it or hold the trophy up at all.
Yeah, Partick Thistle have taken a stance against the SPFL over the title presentation, and I know that Neil Doncaster is absolutely gutted because that means that tonight, instead of sitting at a freezing cold, drafty Fir Hill watching Partick Thistle playing Montrose, he's now been forced into putting his feet up tonight in front of Netflix and having a bottle of wine. So he's absolutely gutted, and I just hope Thistle can have a rethink.
Yeah, absolutely. Darren, change days now. Everybody's petty-minded about everything, aren't they?
Yes. You could say have a chip on your shoulder, but listen, you can see why to an extent, Peter. Hearts and Partick was it Stranraer disappointed last year with the way things turned out, but they've got their own back. They've won their leagues. They're back in the league. I think Partick Thistle is a Premier League club, but they're back in the Championship and giving themselves a chance to get back to the Premier League. So they'll celebrate amongst themselves, I'm sure. No one else, and they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, come on, Roughie. Are you handing over the trophy? Is it someone else? Is there
No,
must have
it is a private party, and if you were having a private party, you would send out invitations to people who you would want to come to that party. If you haven't had an invite, then unfortunately you won't be there. That's the way we're looking at it. So, no, I won't be handing over the trophy, and neither will Jackie. The captain will come forward and lift the trophy and celebrate, and the players will come forward and get their medals, and then we'll all go out and have a right good day.
Yeah, okay. Just let me check now. I'm just checking on the WhatsApp group here with Scott or indeed John Nelms, just to see if the list has been finalised, Roughie. I might be on it, I might not. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be there at the moment, the invite. I'm sure it'll get there once the voting is confirmed. But anyway, apart from anything else, a big hi to Jamie Waddle, who's in Thailand, William Webb, who's in Gladstone in central Queensland, Australia. You ever been there, Tam?
No, that's my cousin. Hello to William. This saves me the postage and any Christmas cards or birthday cards. So, no, here's, and while I'm at it, he saved me another birthday card. His mother, my dad's sister, Martha, originally from Motherwell. She's been out in Australia now for about 60 years. She did the old £10 boat thing many moons ago, very popular with Scots. So my old Auntie Martha, I think, was 90 recently. So hello to Auntie Martha as well. Thanks for saving me a lot of money there, Peter.
It genuinely, is that actually your mate?
It's my cousin, and he never misses a show. He was a very good golfer in his day, and if he's tuned into this, last time he came over, home if you like, to Scotland, that's my wee dug up the stair barking incidentally, but that's fine. These are the rules when you're doing television this manner. But anyway, yeah, he came over mid-90s, he'll remember this well, and he's a very, very good golfer. He was a golf pro, but you think how many golf pros there are in Australia. So William sadly wasn't top of his game, but he was good enough, Peter, to get down to the driving range in the Strathclyde Park and get the odd wee 50 quid here and there for giving out lessons to punters for Blantyre and East Kilbride. So he made a fortune that holiday. So hello to William.
Yeah, well done. Good to know that you watch the show regularly, William. And of course, people from near and far tuning in. Sometimes I do think some people stretch our imagination or belief that they're actually watching with any form of technology. Hugh Scott says, afternoon from a chilly Auchinleck. Now, come on. I mean, we're stretching it now. Auchinleck with Wi-Fi and the ability to watch a stream. I think we're ripping the back end out of it now, Tam, are we not?
Yeah, I'm more intrigued by the guy who's watching us for Thailand. There must be better things to do in Thailand than watch us for.
Absolutely. Anyway, apart from anything else, lots of
I'm glad we've got that cleared up, that Tam's families were all on that first boat to go to Australia. That's cleared that up now.
Yeah, they didn't go on it by choice. They were forced onto it with the rest of the Dull Puddle martyrs. Anyway, apart from anything else, Rangers have been right off the mark, Darren. Rangers with a pre-contract signing. Fashion Sakala has signed a pre-contract, came from Ostend. And I think the Rangers fans will be looking and thinking, woof, Steven Gerrard's not messing about. 24-year-old Zambian striker. He'll join next season.
Yes, Peter, it's good to get your work done early. And actually, I had a wee look once I saw it. I had a wee look at his Wikipedia, and he's mostly got 1 and 2 goals for most of the clubs he's been at. So they're obviously, as I say, on a high, want to get their business done early, get the first one started, get a striker in. I don't know what that means for, say, Etan or whatever, but for the Rangers' point of view, and listen, they're on a high. The fans will be delighted they've got a striker in, and they'll be looking for a few more.
Yeah, I must obviously caution you, Darren, about reading Wikipedia sites. I mean, if you look at Tam's Wikipedia and mine, both of us have remarried Bill Gates's ex-wife. So calm your jets, believing everything on Wikipedia. Roughie, nevertheless, it is, a clear indication. Steven Gerrard's been speaking, obviously, today about the title win and his ambitions for next season. And I think Rangers fans will be heartened by the fact that Steven Gerrard's talking about his plans for next season. So, despite all the speculation that he might be lured away down south.
No, I think he's obviously enjoyed this year, and quite rightly so. He's already on record saying he wants to win more cups, so that'll be something that he can build on next year. But it's good that he's planning, and the Rangers supporters can see that he's planning for next year. I think the only thing the Rangers supporters have been worrying about, if it's cover for somebody else leaving, I'm sure he'll want to keep a hold of all the players he's got. But obviously if the right money comes in for certain players, a forward, then he's covered himself, and that's good business. That's what you want to see a manager doing. If things are in the pipeline we don't know about, at least he's covered all the bases.
Yeah, today they revealed the 4 players that are the Scottish Football Writers' last 4 for the Young Player of the Year. Here's the nominees: David Turnbull, and also Nathan Patterson, Josh Doig, and Lewis Ferguson in there again with another nomination. So 4 of them in the running for the Young Player of the Year for the Football Writers. I wonder who will get the nod. I also, and I'm going to be, it's not controversial, it's just basically looking at Darren and saying, I wonder what the thinking behind Nathan Patterson being in that Young Player Award, Darren. He's had 7 league games for Rangers, 3 starts. And I think a number of young players will be looking and thinking, seriously?
Peter, one springs to mind. Ali McCann at St Johnstone, 21. He's had an unbelievable season. I've watched him a few times, and there's a lot of people watching Ali McCann. And that's not to say he should be in the head of Nathan Patterson, but it is, and I'm not saying this from a Celtic point of view, I'm just looking for a young point. Lewis Ferguson, I've always liked him. Josh Doig's done really well. And Nathan Patterson's done well in the 7 games he's played. But I don't think that's even enough to get a medal, Peter. I think you need 10 appearances to get a medal. So it was a strange one. But for me, and I'm not saying instead of Nathan Patterson, but I am absolutely shocked that Ali McCann's not in there.
Well, Ali McCann was in my 4. Nathan Patterson wasn't in it. No harm to the boy. He's come in. He's done well. I also think there's a tremendous amount of hysteria to try and get him into the Scotland squad as well, Tam. I think people sometimes need to take a wee step back. This is an overall season vote.
Yeah, well, listen, first and foremost, it is a democratic process. All the football writers had a vote. So let's just first up congratulate all 4 young players for making the final, if you like. And let's wish them well in their respective careers. The only thing I take out of Nathan Patterson being included there, Peter, voted by the sports writers, is that I've already had a wry grin in my coupon for years. As a non-Old Firm fan, whenever I hear Old Firm fans talking about how the media have it in for them, the media have got it in for Rangers or Celtic, absolute codswallop. And maybe this is conclusive proof, getting a young guy like Nathan Patterson in the top 4, when, as you say, I thought he'd started 4 league games. You're saying it was 3. But, I think 4 cracking young players. Maybe, who knows, they're edging him in there on the impact that he made in Europe when he famously came on as a sub and scored the goal almost immediately for Rangers. But, I can see David Turnbull winning it. I think he's been immense, and I think he's the guy that, whoever the new Celtic manager is, I think he's the guy who'll build the team around. But good luck to all the boys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, certainly surprised me, put it that way. James Alexander Ingram, this is probably not the show for you, James. We tend to have a positive outlook on football and offer our opinion. Maybe your expression is not ideal for this programme. Some of the other sites are ideal for you, James. This is about football. Roughie, looking at the 4 candidates that the football writers have selected, I'm swaying towards Josh Doig. I think Josh Doig has had a really good season. I think he's really benefited from Lewis Stevenson in that left back role. Unless you're going to tell me somebody different, who are you swaying towards?
No, I think it would be between Doig and Turnbull. And before we move away from the boy Patterson, is one of the best prospects we've had for a long, long time. And he will be a magnificent player for Rangers and for Scotland. But the stats that you've just thrown out there, for me, doesn't justify him being in there, which is no fault of the boys. But for me, the consistency of Turnbull since he's went into the Celtic team, I've been not raving about him, but he's been very prominent in the Celtic team since he's went there. And the boy Doig has been the same at Hibs. So for me, they would be the 2 that would be fighting it out for me.
Yeah, Darren, this is a tough call because Aberdeen have been poor. Ferguson hasn't been a standout. David Turnbull he didn't even get in the side until the turn of the year, albeit he came in and he's done well, but David Turnbull's not been an absolute standout. He's been a shining light in a dross side.
Yeah, but he's done his bit, Peter. I mean, they've not been great, but I think David Turnbull's done his bit, that he's gone in and he's scored. I think he's scored 7 or 8 goals and he's had 5 or 6 assists. I mean, David Turnbull's done exceptionally well. Listen, Lewis has scored. Ferguson has got 10. Josh, they've all contributed, and obviously that's why they're in there. But yes, Aberdeen haven't had a great season, and Lewis hasn't been at the forefront of people's speaking about him and how well he's doing. But I still think he's got 10 goals. And Josh, to come in and take the job Lewis Stevenson has done at Hibs has been incredible. And for Josh Doig to come in and do exceptionally well shows how well he has done to put Lewis out the team. But I would go with David Turnbull for what he's contributed, and he has been in a poor side, Peter. They've not done well at all, and I think David stood out, and I think he deserves it.
Yeah, wow, you've surprised me as well. I mean, listen, if I'm ruling Patterson out, Tam, for 7 appearances and Turnbull's half a season, suddenly we're giving the Young Player of the Year award to people for half a season.
Yeah, I think it's maybe, and then we could maybe move on, Peter. I think it's maybe just fair to say it. When you look at the runners and riders, it maybe hasn't been a vintage year in terms of an outstanding candidate for Young Player of the Year. But as I say, they're all cracking players in their own right. And, let's pick a winner and move on.
Right, pick a winner then.
Former Motherwell maestro, David Turnbull.
Right, okay. 3 years in charge. Today, Roughie, obviously, Steven Gerrard can look back in those 3 years. I think a lot of Rangers fans absolutely idolise him because of what he's done. He's stopped Celtic winning 10 in a row. The Europa League performances have been superb for him. I think he can look back at what he's achieved. I think he actually maybe, did he do it ahead of expectation, or was this always going to be the be-all and end-all season where he was going to be judged or, dare I say it, judged, heralded as the star man, or bumped for not stopping Celtic?
I think the majority of people out with the Rangers supporters would have thought at the beginning of the season that Celtic were going to do the 10 in a row. You know, all the signs were there at the beginning of the season, and then it kicked off the season and everything seemed to unravel. And that obviously made Rangers the favourites with everything that was happening. So, no, I think if Celtic had got their act together, then Steven Gerrard would possibly be building for next year. But it's came early for him, basically because Celtic have been so poor. And you'll take that, you know, and now we're waiting to see how much they build on that. And I think next year's going to be an exciting one, you know. But I think he's got to taste it, as I said. I think he wants more cups. He's already been on record as saying that. The football that Rangers have played have been brilliant, and the goals conceded are fantastic. The European run is fantastic. So Rangers should enjoy this year. They've had so many bad years before that. So in football, you can just enjoy it while it's successful and love every minute of it.
Yeah, I think he wants to do better in the cups, though, Tam. That's been the real bugbear for him.
I know, but you need to be a realist here, Peter. If it, you know, in fact, I said to one of my pals the other night, who is a big Rangers fan, I said, if 3 years ago, when Steven Gerrard came in, if I'd offered you the prospect of him coming in, not winning any cups, but making proper inroads in Europe, almost looking like a wee bit of a force, and of course winning the title that would deprive Celtic of the 10, would you bite my hand off? And there's your answer there, Peter, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. The Fugitive, the new movie, is coming out shortly, and I think Sam's in the running for it.
Hang on, Peter. For any kids watching this, I was only playing boys and girls, all right? That could have given them nightmares. Nightmares.
People are so easily offended these days, Tam. You're absolutely right. But
you want to see the trick? You want to see the trick? It's very like that Roughie can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Darren, he's been superb, Steven Gerrard. He's I mean, other thing about it is he's good to listen to when he's actually chatting about football. You know, you like to listen to him. I think he's conducted himself well. He's had a few what I call mad moments when I think somebody in the PR department gets a hold of him, but other than that, he handles himself well.
Yeah, listen, Peter is a very confident person. He was very confident as a player, and that's what made him the player he is, and that's what's obviously going to take him to be the manager that he wants to be. Now, I think it was all in this year. I'm not saying he would have been sacked or anything if they hadn't won the league this year, but it was all a build-up. He had 2 years to actually get his own players in, get the players that he didn't think that were his standard, get his own players in, and then give it a go. And as much as Celtic have been poor this year, they've done exceptionally well. I mean, we mentioned last week, conceded 10 goals. It's an incredible record. Tactically, they're very good. They all know their jobs really well. Michael Beale and the coaching staff deserve credit for that as well as Steven. But I just think they'll be over the moon. Rangers fans, if they ask them this year, Europa League, we're not worried about that. League Cup, or Scottish Cup, we're not worried about them. We need to win the league, and they've won the league. But I think there'll be a bit disappointment in there that they've not got another trophy. I don't mean the Europa League, but the League Cup or the Scottish Cup. I think there'll be a little bit disappointment in there that there's not another trophy.
Yeah, well, I think the Rangers fans will be heartened, Roughie, at the fact that he's talking about next season, and he obviously wants the board to back him and get more players in. they might lose one, as you mentioned earlier, Roughie. But I think if he can do what he's been doing in the last 3 years, every now and then, just increasing the quality of the player higher and higher, because that's really what he wants. He wants to work with players at a certain level.
Like Celtic's failing has been they haven't done that. They haven't looked over their shoulder. They haven't seen what was coming and just rested on their laurels. I don't think he's going to do that. He's been in the game long enough to know you have to keep strengthening all the time, even though how poor Celtic are. He knows they'll be coming back. I don't know when that'll be, but he knows. So that's why he's adding people just now. And if they continue to do that, that's what you do when you're a good manager and a good team. You strengthen on success. You don't strengthen, or you shouldn't strengthen when you're down in the dumps. But if you keep strengthening when you're winning things, that's good for the future for me. But that's something that Celtic have never really done because they've been so far in front.
Yeah. Darren, would you sell Ryan Christie in the summer? Do you think he's going to be sold?
Well, it looks like it, Peter. It's in the papers today that there's a couple of clubs interested. Has he had the season that we expect Ryan to have? Probably not, since scoring the goal for Scotland. And he has been disappointing. Now, people will look that down to he's not interested in being there, and I'd be very surprised at knowing kind of Ryan as a person. But he's made little comments that he would maybe like to try England. So would I sell him? It depends if he wants to be there. If the new manager comes in and he has he sits down and speaks to him and asks him his thoughts on, does he want to be there? And if he doesn't want to be there, yes, sell him. But I still think Ryan Christie can be an asset for Celtic.
Yeah, Tam, everybody does this, and I know you will have done it as a young boy as well. You at the end of the season, you always look and you get a list together of the players that you think are going out the door because you didn't think they were up to it, and players that you'd like to see coming in the door. It's more and more difficult now, I think, to actually work out the name of a player you'd like to come in. It's probably easier looking and saying, well, we need a left back, we need a centre half, or we need a midfielder. But you can certainly write down the players who you think should be going out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was easier in the old days as well, Peter, because it seemed that when you were a kid, every player was on these kind of contracts, and basically the players that left are the players that would have to have commanded a transfer fee, and therefore it was ultimately your best players that you thought you were going to lose. So that was always easy. And in that respect, then, I am fully expecting that Motherwell will lose Alan Campbell, who's out of contract and has been absolutely dynamite at Motherwell, and Declan Gallagher, who on this very programme, perhaps ever so slightly tongue-in-cheek, I had referred to as Beckenbauer, but he did, of course, get himself into that Scotland squad, and he hasn't been out of it ever since, as I predicted. So, yeah, I can see us losing those two guys and maybe a couple more, but that is where I'm expecting Graham Alexander to come up trumps to start using his contacts down south in the area of English football in which he was dealing up until very recently, and I'm sure he'll be able to kind of plug the gaps. But yeah, it's strange when guys move on. If I was a Celtic fan, Peter, I must say, maybe with Ryan Christie, who I think's a smashing player, and I particularly warrant him for what he's done with Scotland, of course. That's another reason for maybe Celtic getting their manager in sooner rather than later, because, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure if it's Eddie Howe or whoever else they might have up their sleeve, it could do this with Ryan Christie. Put an arm around him, make him feel absolutely brilliant. Tell him you're going to build the Celtic team around him. Unless I'm very much mistaken, Peter, I think that's what Brendan Rodgers effectively did with Callum McGregor and maybe others. He was never done talking him up and other players, and that must have made them feel really, really good. And perhaps that is another reason, as if you needed another one for Celtic bringing in a manager sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that point that you brought up there, Tam, is something that's annoying a lot of Celtic fans, Roughie, is the silence. Certainly no word from the board on anything, not a word at all from them. And of course, John Kennedy locked tight on any speculation on a manager. Personally, I think they've got their man. I've said it for the last couple of months. I think they're just at ease about when he's coming in, why he's coming in at that time. Will become all too apparent. I don't understand any real frustration other than I think a better communication with supporters would help. Not necessarily to tell them who the manager would be, but basically just to come out and look back over the season and give them a few words of how they feel themselves and what they got wrong, and maybe an apology here and there. I don't think we'd have gone amiss with some of the Celtic groups, organisations, supporters associations, whatever. But there's been a deathly silence.
Yeah, I think they will all be disappointed, with that deadly silence. But I think most of us agree that the new manager coming in would want a clean slate. He wouldn't want anything hanging over him like the Rangers winning 4-1 or anything like that. So I would think the next week or so. I think it has to happen in the next week or so. We're not very far away for the Euros. There's lots of people, that we're talking about need to be shown the door, and there's lots of people need to come in. So the clubs like Rangers and Celtic usually wait for their time. They usually wait till when it suits them, whatever the climate is. And I think that's when it will happen. If they have identified somebody, the Celtic supporters will want to know now the season's finished. Let's hear who it is.
Yeah, if anything, the one thing that they will need to do, Darren, is, as Craig Jacks just mentioned as well, need to stimulate season ticket sales. But my overriding feeling on this is that the new manager didn't want to come in while Rangers were going through the coronation of winning the league, and the new manager has to explain away the performances of a team that's almost certainly not his.
Yeah, I think you're right, Peter. A new manager coming in and having to, as you say, explain results, and he's taking the blame for performances and all that. And again, we've just gone back from Steven when he first came in, and the players he had that he didn't think were good enough to be there, and he moved on and brought the players that he wanted, and that's what the Celtic new manager will want. Now, you say you think they've got their man. Are they working in the background? Because we're just speaking about Rangers signing a striker and getting your work done early, Peter. I think it's really important to really get your work done early and not be clambering at the end and maybe just saying, right, we might have to take him. I think that's, especially for a new manager coming in, he'll have identified, I want this player, I want this player, I need this player, I need say they need a left back, but they need a right back because he's on loan. They've got a left back on loan. Is Ayer going to leave? Is Edouard going to leave? They need a goalkeeper. So he's going to have a few questions to be answered, and I think the quicker he's in, the better to get started with all his staff, with his recruitment team, and moving forward.
Well, we can help him with that. I mean, it's an easy list, Tam. He's a goalie, a back four, a couple of midfielders, and maybe another 3 strikers. I mean, it's so obvious, Tam. I mean, I don't know why anybody's wondering about it.
I just wonder, Peter, if all this has already been done and dusted behind the scenes. I've got a feeling,
I've been saying it for months.
Increasingly, I'm hearing from folk whose opinion that I respect, and they reckon that whatever the moment is that Celtic are waiting on, it's just going to be all the glitter balls, the confetti cannons, the whole thing, and Eddie Howe will be marched out to get his photographs taken at the front of Celtic Park, and he's already perhaps get his first few signings as good as tied up. But, again, even just the fact that there's Rangers, you're talking about the boy Fashion earlier, cracking name, that'll be good for the headline writers. But if that's Rangers already going about their business for next season, and you're right, Celtic fans will be tearing their hair out if nothing happens. Incidentally, Peter, talking of Fashion, can I ask Gordon, our technical whiz kid, to get the 4 of us on screen? That's great. I want a show of hands here from Peter, Darren and Roughie. If I gave this top that I'm wearing, if I gave this top to Mr. Hugh MacDonald, hands up if you think he'd be able to sneak into any monastery in the land.
Yes, the name of the rose.
Yes.
He's like, he would
dead ringer, wouldn't he? Hugh would get right in there, aye.
Absolutely. You need to see the movie to know exactly what we're talking about, but you're right, Tam. Hold on to it, though. here's a wee story that caught my eye, Roughie. St Mirren, if they go into the Europa League playoff, then they might not have might not have met all the criteria to actually play in that tournament. Obviously, everybody's talking about the money that they could get if they won the Scottish Cup, but apparently they need some grading that they don't have at the moment. The clubs have to satisfy strict UEFA rules and financial criteria. Nothing has been highlighted just yet what they're failing on, but Livingston also in a precarious position with that. It's a strange one that's come out. I think it's a wee bit of scaremongering on it, something that St Mirren and Livingston will obviously want to try and clarify their position with UEFA.
Yeah, there's obviously things that in these rule books that we don't obviously know. It's usually the length of the park or the width of the park or the goals are too near the back, the supporters, things like that. But if you're getting promised £3 million, I'm sure the stuff that will be on the itinerary can be fixed, and I'm sure if you're in the running to get that money, you will fix them. But I don't know how hard it's going to be until we see the actual things that they're saying they have to come up to scratch with.
Yeah, I can only presume, Tam, with the situations like this, that if you want to be considered for a Europa League final or a Champions League final, you have to have a 5-star rating. It may well be the star rating on certain things that have to be within your stadium to play in European competition. As Roughie's saying, that could be various different elements. I don't know what financially, do you have to have enough money in your account to be able to get the whole team out to another country to play?
Yeah, or maybe it's even potential opposition of St Mirren's in Europe. Maybe these swarthy players from Italy and Spain didn't fancy the idea of staying in a bed and breakfast in Borhead. I don't know what it was, Peter, but you know what? This is ridiculous. It's like going back to the days when all our dear old pal Mr. Roger Mitchell, when he was forcing Scottish clubs to have these big super duper stadium when they didn't have the fans to fill them, and they were stopping clubs from getting promotion and all the rest of it. This is the last thing the St Mirren fans, or indeed fans of any other club who fall into this bracket, need. After the year that we've just had, the bottom line is St Mirren have proven this past season they can put on football matches at their stadium. That means that they'd be able to put on European football matches at their stadium. And the very idea that just as hopefully fans get back into the ground, that St Mirren fans would be deprived of watching their team in Europe because they weren't allowed to play in the first place because of some bonkers criteria in a rule book somewhere, it just absolutely takes the biscuit. They need to just get a grip.
Yeah, and just on that point, Darren...
The 21s and the women's team play there. They're internationals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, great shout.
No, but I think it's something, in the background of the European competition rules, finances.
I think your youth setup. I think I might have read that somewhere. Their youth setup, and I don't know because of COVID, they've not been able to have a youth setup like they've normally had. I'm not very sure. I'm not saying that's right, but it was just something I heard. But I knew
Darren, that was one of the factors that I remember reading about Livingston, and clearly it's the same criteria that is applied to all the clubs. But that is absolutely bonkers. With the best one in the world, I mean, we all like to encourage youth development and all the rest of it. But what is the youth set up at St Mirren got to do with depriving them of a place in European competition, which would be fully merited? We're all speaking hypothetically here, of course, but which would be fully merited if they went and won the Scottish Cup. It is just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's probably paragraph 5 of page number 354 that we haven't read. Roughie, if you read that and tell us about it on Thursday's show, that would be fantastic. Incidentally, because you're not going to be on tomorrow's show, Roughie, obviously it's very rare for you to miss a show. Is that because you're going to be absolutely bladdered on the night out?
Yeah, we're having a lunch with all the players on the board. We're having a curry. We're having a curry up in the Alan Rough suite with, I'm sure, some drink, and then we'll be going out afterwards to celebrate. No, I certainly will not, but I think bladdered might be the right word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peter, can I just say, I've genuinely, while we've been on air, genuinely had a text from one of my pals who's a big Falkirk fan, and all this talk that all Partick Thistle are looking forward to is a party and all the rest of it. There are still a couple of competitive fixtures to be played, and of course, if Montrose beat a partying Partick Thistle this evening, whilst Airdrie, who are already in the playoff, beat Falkirk, that means that the once mighty Falkirk would miss out in the playoffs. So I think all my pal is suggesting that he would like a thoroughly professional display from Partick Thistle tonight before they start getting the beach ball out and before they start worrying about their curry and their bevy and the Alan Rough suite.
Yeah. Well, as I told Peter yesterday, Ian McCall phoned me and asked me, was I available for selection tonight at Montrose? So that shows you the way that we're going.
Yeah, I don't think. I know he's tongue in cheek with it. And the good news is Roughie's not playing for Thistle tonight, so there's going to be an air of professionalism, as I would expect from Ian McCall. Now, I've got to ask you guys, because we obviously won't get the chance to speak to you before the semi-finals. We're talking about St Mirren there, Darren. Who do you think the two cup finalists will be?
I just think St Johnstone have done exceptionally well this year, Peter. I think they're a good side. I think that Callum's coached them extremely well, and I've said about Jim at St Mirren, he's done exceptionally well, and I've been gutted that the two of them didn't swap for the top six. It was that close. I fancy St Johnstone to beat St Mirren, and I just think the inconsistency of Dundee United. You go up to Aberdeen, have an unbelievable result. I mean, Peter, when was the last time Aberdeen? How many times did Aberdeen lose 3 goals really at home? Lose 3-0, and then they go the home game against Ross County and lose 2-0. I think they're too inconsistent, and I think Nisbet, Boyle, and Doige will cause them too many problems, and I think it'll be a Hibs St Johnstone.
Tam?
As much as we're all talking about St Mirren there and the prospect potential of European football, if I had to put my money on it, I would be siding with St Johnstone. And that one, I think they're in a great run of form. I think Callum Davidson has got the bit between his teeth. They're looking for this extraordinary cup double, which, quite frankly, in my mind, would mean that Callum Davidson wouldn't be at St Johnstone for much longer. I think he would be on the radar of many a club down south, where, of course, he's already featured as both a player and a coach. So, yep, I think St Johnstone are going to shade that one. And I kind of agree with Darren. Dundee United were dynamite against Aberdeen, or were Aberdeen just rotten? It's sometimes hard to make your mind up, but I've got a feeling for, and again, the point I'm going to make about this when we come to getting crowds in at football, I think we could be looking at a St Johnstone Dundee United final, Peter, and then we know that Hampden can't be used. You can't get fans in at Hampden because UEFA have taken over. We know there's going to be refurbishment at Ibrox and Celtic Park and Tynecastle and BT Murrayfield, which rules out the prospect of playing the Scottish Cup final there with fans. But let's just say it was, Peter, a St Johnstone Dundee United final. You could play that at Dundee. The big thing throughout COVID, they're trying to wipe out is people travelling any distance. So you play that final at Dens Park, and you're only asking the very local Dundee United fans to come along, and the guys that are just down the road, coming up that one stretch of road, all 20 miles of it for Perth, and you could then get a decent crowd, a safe, COVID-friendly crowd of, let's say, 1,000 Dundee United fans and 1,000 St Johnstone fans. I think that's a great solution.
Well, if it works out that way, possibly a good solution that somebody might suggest as they get ever closer to it. I think it's going to be, I agree with that, and Roughie, I think it's going to be Hibs against St Johnstone.
Yeah, I think we're all looking at it that way, that these two are the forum sides. But I tell you, this position, it's usually Rangers Celtic in these finals. So Johnstone have won a cup already. I like to see the cup getting spread around a wee bit. I'd like to see St Mirren, getting to a final and possibly winning it. If it's Hibs, then it's going to be a lot harder for them. I think Hibs will get more firepower. But if I was to bank on it, it would be Hibs versus St Johnstone. But I would like to see St Mirren maybe getting to a final.
So basically, you're covering all bases on this, just to say that you've kind of you've tipped everybody, apart from obviously
it's
Dundee United.
Tam will know that everything's beginning to slacken, and St Mirren do have a good social club who usually have lots of dinners throughout the year, and sometimes if you're lucky enough, you get asked to them. So St Mirren for me.
Well, the headline tomorrow on the most of our headlines from the show will be Roughie says Dundee United have no chance and snubs the Tannadice outfit. So as far as the Cup is concerned, that's one prediction for us. Dundee have managed to get second place, Darren, so suddenly Dunfermline against Wraith Rovers. That's going to be an absolute cracker.
Big one. It's a big disappointment for John McGlynn, but Dundee have done well getting in there, Peter. Who'd I fancy tonight? Obviously, Wraith gave Dundee a bit of a doing the other week there, 4, and they've been playing exceptionally well. John McGlynn.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the Wraith Rovers boss, John McGlynn. He's done a great job. You're still with us, Darren, yeah?
You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, yeah.
I'm frozen. Yeah, John McGlynn's done an incredible job, and I think Wraith will win tonight, but I think it'll be hard. I think it's been a great signings getting Jason Cummins. He's a goal scorer, and in that league he could score goals in the Premier League, Premiership, Peter. But in the Championship, he's prolific, and I think he could be the one that will take them to the Premier League.
Okay, interesting. Long way to go. A lot of games to be played. One good thing I was going to say, Tam, which is quite simply, we are going to have Kelty and Brora playing off against each other. There was a wee feeling that it wasn't going to happen, but Barry Ferguson, the heart will be buzzing. I certainly wish him well, and I wish Kelty all the very best, because if Roughie feels miffed and also Hearts and Stranraer feel miffed, Brora and Kelty also have that same feeling.
Yeah, I mean, the trumpet fanfare was out when the pyramid system was announced in Scottish football, and for a horrible moment there, Peter, it looked as if we were heading towards it being blanked for the second season on the bounce. And of course, how cruel would that have been, featuring the same two teams as last year in Brora and Kelty? So it's absolutely magnificent that's going ahead. That I would quite happily watch that one if we could get it in the box anywhere. Particularly the second leg. I'm not going to be too-faced about this, Peter. I was on my soapbox last week saying that the first leg of any football, we were talking about the European stuff last week, doesn't particularly interest me. I've always been there for the second leg. When it's the business end of that particular tie. But no, and ditto with Dunfermline against Wraith Rovers, I would happily, if the rules allowed it, Peter, that's the sort of game I'd love to even have gone along to as a neutral. The two games, in fact, proper football, tasty Fife derby, can't beat that kind of stuff. Much better. Even though I'm bitter, as I'm sure you'll mention later, about the money I lost last week, but much better for me, much more honest in their Champions League stuff.
Yeah, I think you might be pushing it, Roughie, hoping that there's a stream for Kelty and Brora. I mean, in Kelty, Len Fairclough is still in Coronation Street, so I don't think there's any chance whatsoever, Roughie, of us even Tam McManus' satellite dish will not pick up a stream of Kelty Brora, Roughie, surely.
Yeah, I'd love to know when that game comes down to Kelty how they're going to stop everybody from watching the game. I think it'll be a few pictures of people over the wall and everything, because it's not the most covered stadium in the world. So, no, I'm like Tam. I think it's magnificent. I really do, and I hope. No, I can't. No, go against Brechin. I mean, Brechin have been playing every week, and the other two teams haven't. That's the advantage they've got. But I think everybody, with the injustice of these two teams last year, would hope that they get promotion, because they've put so much into it, and Brechin have been down there for a long, long time. So let's have a change.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you what, Peter, when Roughie's talking about the crowds that he can expect to gather for the return leg of Celtic against Brora. It put in my mind the images of when Partick Thistle clinched the title, and up that wee corner at Firhill you had a lot of Partick Thistle diehards all crusted in there. There was no social distancing going on. It struck me that they could be spreading COVID willy-nilly. I really just hope that if Neil Doncaster saw those pictures and if he's been cruelly snubbed for any parties this week, that he doesn't hand out a points deduction that could cost Partick Thistle the title.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, that's no funny, Tam. That's no funny.
Yeah. Don't roll it out, Roughie.
Peter, just when I was frozen there and I got distracted. What I meant about Dundee is meaning to get to the Premiership playoff against the second bottom. I didn't mean they'd get promotion.
Well, we actually discarded that point, Darren, because everybody just filleted you. Everybody was just steaming in and calling you an absolute rat when you were frozen there. That rat Jackson suggesting Dundee are going straight into the Premiership. So we just discarded that, Darren.
Another Celtic player banned.
Well done, Roughie. There's a real conspiracy theory going about at the moment. Oh dear, the world's gone mad actually. But we won't get into that point because I don't really think there's any merit whatsoever in talking about other broadcasters and there. But for the grace of God, Tam, you know, when you're in the firing line, as you well know, you and I have been in the firing line, and everybody takes a wee step back and they're glad it's not them.
Absolutely. The one thing I'd like to chuck out to the punters on Facebook, Peter, maybe they could come up with a suggestion. You'll have somebody lined up already, I am sure, but so that Roughie can enjoy himself tonight and tomorrow. He's not on the football show tomorrow. In a dream world, who would the football show regulars who watch, as we know, right around Scotland, Thailand, Gladstone and Australia, who ideally would they like to see and that screen on the far right as a replacement for Roughie? Who would be the dream booking? Get the answers in Facebook.
Yeah, that is a great shout, Tam. Do you know why I love Tam on a Tuesday, Roughie? Because he automatically, his head, I can see the wheels in his mind automatically in what I call, off the ball mode. And that is classic Tam from Off the Ball. As soon as somebody makes a statement, he'll go, that's something for everybody to contribute to, and it's a great way that he does it. I can see the way his mind works, and people will obviously,
just for a noise up and to make Peter's day even harder. Let's have Andy Walker on.
You are going to get your head kicked in. Listen, if it was up to me, I absolutely get on great with Andy, so it would be no problem. I'd have his brothers on as well. I know them all.
Can I put my hat in the ring as well? I mean, 30 quid's 30 quid, mate. These are tough times.
Brilliant. This is twice I've called people a rat on this programme. Our producer Cheryl's just said you can watch it on the Brora Rangers website for £10. So there you are. Oh. So you can actually watch Brora against Celtic, a tenner on their website, which is absolutely fantastic. Ronnie Porter says, bring back Barry Ferguson to replace Roughie. People with Niall Kane said, wait for it, Tam, Hugh Keevans would be brilliant. And Alistair McDermott says Roy Keane. Anyway, we won't be inviting Jim Ross. We won't be inviting Neil Doncaster. But anyway, listen, a couple other things. Darren, I watched it last night. Thought it was fantastic. Great to see Moisey getting West Ham to the edge of that Champions League place. And when I look at the run-in for West Ham and the run-in for Chelsea, I think the Hammers are in with a great chance.
It's unbelievable last night, Peter. Going a goal behind as well. They showed great courage and, I mean, great. Ben Rama, great ball in for the second goal. And Antonio in there. I don't think he's a natural goal scorer, but there were two great poachers' goals, great finishes. And, I mean, it's just unbelievable how well Moisey's done.
Yeah, and of course the manager himself is dreaming of European football.
I think all in all, we've had a really good team performance tonight, and we're there. We're sort of hanging around a wee bit at the moment with we're going to try and keep up with the teams at the top. Whether we can make the top 4, I'm not sure, but I'd really like to try and get myself in a position where we could possibly make Europe, and we're in there fighting with 4 games to go.
I like the fact that he's now saying, Roughie, that they are going to make a go of it. Champions League, there's no trying to be diplomatic. Moisey wants it. This would be an unbelievable achievement for West Ham when you consider their spend in comparison to what I call the treacherous Big Six.
Now, if you've been a West Ham supporter for a long time, you've never ever been on that side of the league table. They're always usually down the bottom, scraping, trying to stay out of the relegation. So he's done absolute wonders, and we all talk about manager of the year, and I know the Man City boy has done remarkably well, but David Moyes is just incredible, that where he's taken them to, and the pressure that he was on early doors with the owners who couldn't make their mind up whether he was the right guy for the job. But he's proved he's the right guy now, and I think, like everybody, we all hope he does get into Europe, but Champions League would just be the icing.
Yeah, absolutely. No surprise, Tam, Jose Mourinho back in football. He's going to be the Roma manager next season on a 3-year deal.
Yeah, well, you're a bit behind the news there, Peter. He was sacked this afternoon and he got a 17.5 million payoff. So he's at it again. I'm bored with Jose Mourinho, quite frankly. As I say, that stat that came out a couple of weeks ago, I think it was 93.7 million pounds that he's trousered just in payoffs. Just for being jottered, forget the wages, forget the bonus money, forget the sponsorship deals. It is absolutely just disgusting, And football has, we all knew it for years, but it's completely lost the place. But I don't even know. I haven't followed his career very closely, Peter. I certainly don't follow the league that he's about to be featuring in. What's your gut reaction, Peter? You're more the anorak than me. Is he going to crack it there?
Well, my gut reaction on it is Inter have just stopped Juventus winning 10 in a row. So Inter are the force. His old club, Inter, are the force. Remember, he guided them to Champions League victory as well. But you used the perfect word there, Tam. Forget. And I would say to all the Roma fans, Darren, forget about attacking football because it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Tottenham, they just can't. Listen, I'm huge Harry Kane fan. I mean, that's what you were talking about, Antonio there and being a poacher and a finisher. He's an incredible finisher. I think Harry Kane actually became a better player, Peter, because he came deeper and he created more goals. But they must have gone home sometime. Like, sometimes you look at stats and they're nonsense, but sometimes you look at stats and you think, like, they hardly touched the ball, and you've got attacking players there, and Son and Bergwijn and people like that, and Lamar, and you just think they can't go home being happy, even though they were winning games, they were up near the top of the league. They can't go home and really sit down and say, that was brilliant today, I really enjoyed that. Because most of the time we're defending and we're just putting blocks up, a blocky 4 or a blocky 5, so the other team can't beat us, and we've got to go and win the game. So no, it wasn't it wasn't for me sitting watching Spurs like I would normally, because I grew up as a Spurs fan with Glenn Hoddle, so it was a little bit different.
Yeah, that's unusual. I didn't know that. Probably one of the only clubs that you haven't played for as well. So Spurs.
I played against them at White Hart Lane in the FA Cup, and Glenn Hoddle was my hero. And I was playing directly against them. And I've had bad games before anyone jumps in. I've had bad games in my career. I had the worst game ever in my career, but at least it was against a guy who was, I think, if he would have been in the top 5 passers of the ball ever.
Yeah. Did you get his top?
I never know. I didn't get that close to him.
Okay. Quick prediction before we go. Man City, Paris Saint-Germain. This is the return leg now. So, Tam, I think it might catch your attention. Tell Roughie how close you were to 2-1-1s last week, Tam. How much were you going to pocket for the big staff party?
I was very, very close. You'd have been only too happy to get a drink. I can't tell a lie. If both games, if Man City hadn't scored a second goal, and given it the other game had been one each, had the double on, straight double, 2-1-1s, and Roughie, I would have won just under £2,500. And I would have definitely stuck some money in the hat for the first night out that we'd have all had with the PLZ gang. But there you go. That's why the bookies always win, Peter. That's I'll remember that for many a year. But ultimately, I lost. The money was in the bookies' satchel, and that's why they're all running about in Mercedes. I'll tune in tonight. Proper football tonight, Peter. The second leg, that's what you need. That is the business end, as I say again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Man City will do it. I think Roughie's choice of PSG are out. And just for the benefit of everyone who, obviously some people watch us on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, for the benefit of our podcasters, only a moment ago, Roughie had a drink of his gin and tonic and fresh orange, as you could hear the ice chinkling as you were walking around the park and started to panic, thinking somebody was around you again. Roughie, who are you going for? Man City or PSG?
I'm hanging on in there, but I don't mind now. If my team get beat, I don't mind them getting beat to Man City, because I'd like to see a British club winning it, and Man City are my English club. But if I was the Man City manager, I would still be tend to be a wee bit worried with the form.
Yeah. Okay. Is it just me? Is it just me, or is it gone?
No, we have to guess. We have to guess what he's saying. Can I just say, Peter, as well, for everybody tuned into that tonight, Man City against PSG, beautifully poised at 2-1 second leg. But whatever happens, Peter, and I know what I'm talking about when it comes to stuff like this, make sure you record Beat the Chasers on STV at 9 o'clock and watch that. No, listen, watch that after the fact. But you know, I know this stuff. This for me is the best format of any quiz show I have ever seen on TV, and I think they'll struggle to bring back the 5 o'clock editions of the Chaser after this, because it just seems so tame by comparison. I watched it last night. It was absolutely exhilarating, better than all that Line of Duty rubbish on Sunday night.
Yeah. That's what I love about you. Oh, Roughie's back. We missed the last two sentences of "You think Paris Saint-Germain are going to win, Roughie?" So we just cut you off like we did Darren earlier on.
Okay.
Can I just say on that point, Tam, I don't like to get into broadcasting rows, but we're hoping to get the big PLZ staff night out, which is great. It must build up the camaraderie for you, because do you have an off the ball end of season night out with all the team?
We kind of have a curry, and that's more or less, Peter, you know how this works for a couple of the young boys and girls that maybe work on the show, dealing with the emails and maybe getting the cups of tea and that in the studio. We like to take them out for a wee Ruby Murray at the end of the season. But other than that, it's kind of the Christmas bash at the BBC. And sadly, Peter, and I'm sure you'll actually join me in this, the very fact that you can't go into pubs now, the very fact that you can't have big gatherings, big parties, what we're really missing out on tonight would be, and I wish him a very, very happy birthday live on air just now, our dear pal Chick Young is 70 years young today. So all the very best to Chick. And no matter what MD thinks about Chick, an absolute legend in and around Scottish football. All the best to Chick.
That is a great shout, because I'll kid you not, Tam, I basically, all the boys got together. We play with Chick 5-a-sides on a Wednesday morning and a Friday morning. And it seems like only yesterday we all chipped in and got him a jersey with "Happy 60th" on the back of it. And I was looking at the photograph the other day there. Where have the 10 years gone? Happy birthday to you, Chick, wherever you are. And can I just say at this point, we're missing out on Tam's money for the big staff party, Roughie, but we're still going to have a cracking staff party. The other thing is, though, Roughie. I don't know about you, but he's mentioning. I love Tam. He mentions these shows that we all should watch. So I'm going to keep an eye on Beat the Chasers. And of course, I'm trying to convince my wife, Roughie. I don't know if you agree with this. The BBC Scotland show, Scotland's Home of the Year. I'm trying to convince my wife that we should go in for it next year. What do you think, Roughie?
Oh, I was down the other day. It's impressive. There's no doubt about that. It's up there with some of the quality, but that's what happens when you spend $500,000 in your house. It's only worth 400,000, so.
Brilliant. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure we'd get too many votes for it, but nevertheless, Beat the Chasers. That's a good shout, Tam. I'll tape that after the football. Anyway, Darren, tell everybody. They're all there, looking, they're excited, and they're wondering, what is Darren going to be watching tonight?
Blackpool Doncaster. If we get a win tonight, that's us in the playoffs. I think a draw will do, but if we get a win tonight, we're in the playoffs, and it's a great achievement with the manager and the staff and the players. They've been unbelievable. So I'll have that on my computer, and I'll have Man City, Paris Saint-Germain on the telly.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, there's always someone worse off than yourself. From Tam, Darren, Roughie and myself, thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals